Hello everyone, Skateman222 here with a commentary on Rugrats in Paris Game Boy Color version. This is going to be my AGDQ 2017 submission. It's been a while since I've been to a GDQ. The only AGDQ I've been to, or GDQ period that I've been to, was the AGDQ 2013, where I played Ape Escape to kick off the marathon, as well as Earthbound that I co-opted with Mickey Mage. It was a blast, and I'd love to do it again, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a shot and see if I can get a game in. So, this is Rugrats in Paris Game Boy Color version. There are other versions out there. There are the, so there's a Game Boy Color version, there's also the PS1 and N64 version that are very similar, but have quite a bit of differences, but this is not the game that we were playing the Game Boy Color version. So, it is basically a platformer with a few speedrunning techniques, surprisingly. And the music that we're listening to right now is from one of the earlier stages. I don't have sound for the VOD, so I'm just going to go ahead and commentate over it with some music in the background. I hope you don't mind. So, the whole point of this game is we're in EUROREPTARLAND, right? It's the setting that takes place in the movie. And what we have to do is we have to gather enough tickets to gain access to all of the rides, I guess. They don't really look like rides, they look more like, you know, full-fledged worlds, but you know, this is a game. Let's just pretend this is normal. So we need to gain access to all of these rides, and we need to get tickets. So the only way to get tickets is to play these games or complete courses. So the way this works is we're going to farm tickets on one of the earlier minigames, and this is the easiest and fastest one to do it. It's, you know, a little shooter game, as you can see. You know, you shoot bubbles at ninjas and like robotic animals and stuff in the GUI world, which you will see later. So unfortunately, this does take a decent amount of time. It does take about less than 4 minutes, as you can see on my splits, and it's not too bad. It's really easy. That's the thing that's really great about it. And it's yeah, it's less than a minute every single time, and the pattern is always the same. There's absolutely no RNG here, so basically it's always gonna take, you know, roughly 3 minutes and 45 seconds ish. So yeah, very simple stuff. You know, you can, and you also, it's very lenient as well. There's like no way to fail this, like, at all. You just need 1,000 points to gain enough tickets. So basically the way this minigame works is that depending on how well you do, you get a certain amount of tickets. So what we have to do is every single time we have to reach the maximum threshold, and that's 1,000 points. And once you get 1,000 points, no matter how many points you get above 1,000, you are always going to get the same amount of tickets. So you can actually just chill, you know, for a while, as long as you get your balloon on the bottom, as you can see there. If you can get that down to above 1,000, then you're good. So it's very simple. And we have to do this 4 times. And when we do it 4 times, we never have to grind for tickets ever again. We can complete the whole rest of the game, and that's where the actual fun comes from this platformer. Another thing that's really great about this game too is its length. It's only 23 minutes, as far as my PB goes anyway, of 23:07. That's currently what we're watching right now. But I am aiming to get a 22-minute time in the near future, especially if this game gets accepted too. That'll give me a lot more motivation to grind out this game. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. So yeah, like I said, the first 4 minutes not so hot, but then the rest of the game is only, you know, 19 minutes more, and that's where the excitement truly comes. Another thing that I would like to mention as well is that this is a Game Boy game, or a Game Boy Color game in this instance, and Game Boy games had a really strong showing at the most recent GDQ, the Summer Games Done Quick 2016, so I thought this would be a good idea to submit it, and you say, you know what, let's try to, you know, change things up a bit. Let's try to add a different kind of Game Boy game to the mix, and this one felt like a really nice fit. It's obviously not as amazing as many Game Boy Color games. It's, you know, kind of memey. It could even be considered an awful game in a sense, but I don't think it's that awful. I want to say it's like somewhere in the middle of those two. So here we have the first platforming of the entire game. We're playing as Chucky in the Rocket Level, and the music that's playing right now is actually the song that would be playing if you actually heard the game audio here. It's probably the best song in the entire game. Give or take, I don't know, it's kind of hard. I think it's probably the best one, and it's not even that great, as you can tell. So the goal of this level here is to, basically, the goal of all levels actually, it's mostly kind of like a collectathon in a way. You can see on the bottom right of your screen the things you need to collect in the level before you can actually finish it. So in this case, it seems we have to fire rockets or something. I don't really understand that because I don't think you see any rockets firing at all here. But really, the whole point of this level is to hit switches. So as you can see right there, there's a red field of lava on the side there. So there's a bunch of these things blocking your way. The red switches obviously get rid of the red lava walls, if you can call it that. I don't even know. Or lasers. And the blue ones get rid of the electricity between the electric rod balls that you see. And there's also a green one as well, I believe, and that switches the way conveyor belts go, and we'll see that later. So another technique that you may be seeing here is basically energy management. So in every level, you start off with a maximum energy of 9, I believe, and that includes the 0, so it's actually 10. You have 10 energy to work with, and pretty much every enemy, I don't think I've ever seen an enemy do more than 1 damage of energy. They all do 1. So the whole idea is it's actually more beneficial to take damage whenever you can, because as you can see when he jumps, yeah, it's kind of slow. So when he jumps, he has to kind of like, you know, gather his footing, jump, and then he has to land, and he has to still have to like take time to land on his 2 feet. So you definitely want to jump, like, you don't want to jump as much. You want to conserve your jumps, and you want to take damage whenever you can. So the way I routed out most of these levels is that I usually end the level with 0 energy, because there are plenty of enemies, so I have to jump over some, and I have to choose the ones which are more beneficial for me to jump off of, or jump over, versus ones I need to take damage. So I think that's a prime example of a really key speedrunning technique that's employed in here. So you saw the conveyor belts there. It's also really good to jump off of the conveyor belts, especially if you're going in the right direction, because if you do, then you're going to get a speed boost while you jump. You know, little minor time saves everywhere, but it's just a clear example of like how deep this game could go as far as like speedrunning techniques go. As much as there are basic techniques, they are still techniques nonetheless, and I thought it was pretty neat. So you can also see items floating around like that. It looks like a baby bottle of milk or something. That actually heals energy, and there are other items that heal more energy, I think. I believe there are some that just either heal you to max or heal a certain amount, something like that. And sometimes we can use that to our advantage to take more damage boosts, especially if it's on the way, like this one. So there's plenty of time to work with. There's also a time limit. Obviously this won't matter in a speedrun, but the time is a good indication of how well you're doing, I guess. And that last enemy there's like a flying UFO over there. That could be kind of tricky. So we have to account for that as well. So another thing you notice is the Ferris wheel here. Every time we start a new level, we have an option to choose different characters. However, the different characters, I believe, do not have any effect on your speed or like the way they control. They all are basically the same. They all jump the same, they all move the same. So it's just better to just pick the default character for the level. It's just way faster than having to scroll through the Ferris wheel, obviously. So what's kind of cool about this game too is that it's a different default character for each level, so you're not just playing, you know, Chucky the whole way through. You can play as basically all the characters, I think, except for Angelica, because Angelica is the one that always pops up in the transition screens between the levels. And there's a lot of witty dialogue in there sometimes, but we're gonna have to skip those because, yeah, cutscenes take too long. So this is the photo level. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of the you know, take a tour around the world and take photos of the great wonders and stuff like that, and you have to collect 4 of them to finish, and that's it. So you just grab the 4 fastest ones that are closest to you, make a good route, and finish the level. So now we have Phil in the pyramid level. So this one's kind of interesting. You have to gather 5 gems at the very end of the level to unlock the gate at the very end. And you have these switches here, and every time you hit the A button to, you know, right in front of the light, it changes the direction, and it has 4 directions, obviously, up, left, right, down, and it's basically a giant puzzle, and there's a solution that's obviously the fastest way to do it, and like the only real, you know, optimization in this is you know, having the fastest route. There's a lot of them that we're not even using here, as you can see. Also, as you can see there, you see Phil is like at the top of the screen there. And that's what I'm doing. I'm holding down. I'm holding down as I'm walking because it doesn't slow my movement, and it makes it so that I grab the rope on the first possible frame. So here are the gems. They're hidden behind walls, and the lights actually break through these walls for some reason. So we just grab the 5 fastest ones, Also a really fast route here. So yeah, this level is just simply, you know, route planning and, you know, decent execution, hitting the switches as fast as you can. And there's only like 2 enemies that you damage boost here, so you don't want to jump at all. There's no need to jump. And we're done with that level. Now we go to the Ooey Gooey world, and this is Kimmy. So this one's kind of interesting. This one actually has some really cool techniques. You're going to see the first example of damage boosting, which is actually a very common technique in speedruns, and I think it's really neat the way it's used in this level especially. So the way these trampolines work, obviously, every time you jump on them, you go higher and higher. So there are many trampolines in the level where it's possible to do it in X amount of jumps, so you have to kind of... It's kind of weird, I don't really understand the physics of it too much, but there are some occasions where you can jump the same amount of times but still not make it. So it's kind of weird, it's something to explore a little bit more. But besides that, it's a pretty simple level. The objective of this level, man, I can't speak. The objective of this level is to just walk by the robotic animals, and I think you have to collect 5 at the very beginning. I already got 1. You gotta get 5. So this one's a pretty long level. So here's an example of one of the animals. You just walk by it. Most of the levels are like this. You're just kind of walking by things, and you know, there you go. And there's the damage boost. So you use a trampoline to go above, and then the enemy is going to spawn above you, and normally you wouldn't be able to get up there with 1 jump, but because there's an enemy, if you get damaged by an enemy, it gives you like this upwards boost, and so you can use that to your advantage to just, you know, boost up to higher places. So that's an example of what happened here. The trampoline kind of messed me up. So usually that's done in 4 jumps, but it's possible to miss it. You know, minor mistake, but hopefully that won't be an issue. Something I need to practice more to figure out why the trampoline does that. So these bubbles damage you as well. I think there are like little slimy gooey things around too. And just like the other levels, damage boosting is key. This is just as long, if not longer, than the rocket level with Chucky. And that one required a lot of damage boost, but you couldn't damage boost everything. And this is another example of that. There are many enemies in this level. It's a really long one. And so you have to choose the ones you have to jump over. So not much else to say about this level. Ooey Gooey World, it's a long one. So the current world record for this game is 23 minutes, held by VGS Brandon 1. We've been kind of trading times back and forth a while back. I haven't played this game in a while, but I can definitely pick it up again. It's not a big deal. And I think like a 22, like I said, is definitely possible. It just requires some really good execution and decent RNG at the very end. There's not really much RNG, if any at all. I think you could even kind of manipulate the RNG at the very end that you'll see. Alright, so we're finally done with the level, and the last one's right there at the exit. Alright, next level. So what's a platformer without a minecart level? Gotta have the minecart. So we have Tommy Pickles for this one. So the minecart level, we have to collect 15 lanterns, as you can see over there. Or not really collect them, but more like turn them on. So what you can do with Tommy in the car is you can duck or stay above. So to be able to open the lights, you have to be above. And if you duck, you can avoid the ghosts, or else the ghosts are going to hurt you if you stay above. So you kind of have to alternate between ducking and staying above to hit all the lights on the way. So what's kind of interesting about this as well, you see these switches. Every time you pass by it, you have to choose the right path. There are many paths you can take, and for a casual playthrough, your first time, it gets really confusing. Oh, and here's another thing that you have to keep in mind as well. There are sometimes paths that split into 3, so obviously a switch won't make the cut there. Instead, it's just a jump. And so the way you control which track you're going to get onto is by braking. You can also brake with the cart too. So this one's kind of the trickier one, the middle one. So if you just don't brake, you're obviously just going to go straight to the top one. If you brake heavily and you just hold the brake button, it's going to bring you to the bottom path. But for the middle one, it's kind of tricky because you have to kind of brake, but not brake like fully. You kind of have to like just brake a little bit, and then it'll, you know, kind of slow down, and then you'll just get on the middle one. It's a little tricky, but it's not too bad. So as you can see, there are many lanterns on the way. So you can choose to duck for the rest of it at one point, once you get the 15. Alright, now we have the volcano level. I kind of like this level a lot too. It also employs some damage boosting that you'll see very shortly. And we damage boost off of poisonous cotton candy, I guess. I don't know, it's like a ooey or a bubblegum or a cotton candy volcano. I don't recall this being in the movie. Maybe I should go rewatch that to refresh my memory. But this is the volcano level. And as you saw there are kind of like puddles or pools of, like I said, cotton candy or something. And for some reason you can walk on the cotton candy, no problem, even though it looks like, you know, it would be lava because we're in a volcano. But for some reason the only ones that damage are the bubbles that pop up. So we can use that to our advantage again to damage boost. Another speedrunning technique, I guess, that does show up in this level are elevator cycles. So there are, I believe, 3 elevators in this whole level. One of them, I think, as far as we know anyway right now, there's no way to get the best cycle to get on it right away, so we have to wait a good 10 seconds. I think it's coming up right here. That platform right there. We haven't found a way to get on that platform in time. I think all of the elevators and like moving platforms in this level are based off of just the clock. But I think there are also some that kind of move when you get onto the screen. So like once you load that part of the level, then it's gonna start going. Not really sure 100% on the mechanics of that, but it's something to look into. Especially if we could make that cycle, that would save like 10 seconds easily. But there's another one that comes up later that saves quite a bit of time, and I think I do get it. Actually I might not get it in this run. Alright, so there it's not faster or slower. I think it actually might be slower to damage boost there. So there's not really a cycle. It's just, you know, hopping on the left side so you can get there. There's another one at the very end though that you can make, and I think I missed it in this run. So the enemies here are, I don't know, like seals or something, or turtles. I don't really know. They look like seals playing with like balls, but it's kind of weird because it's like floating. It's not really like, you know, doing the whole, you know, seals like bouncing it off their head. Okay, so here we do a damage boost because it definitely saves time because the platform is like all the way over there. And here I have to wait for another platform. And we're nearly done the level. I think we're about, according to my splits, probably about a minute away. There's not really much else to say about this level. Oh yeah, the thing I kind of find funny is when you wait on these platforms, each baby has like an animation, and this one just picks their nose. It's kind of gross. So instead of going on the left side, we just go on the right side and jump to the left. That saves a decent amount of time. There's an elevator here, I think. Yeah, this one. You could actually make this. I barely missed it somehow. I don't know. It's rare that I missed that, but you can actually make that and save a decent amount of time there too. But if you miss it, it's not the end of the world. The elevator is not too big there, so you just have to wait a couple seconds. And I had to jump over that one because I took damage. And there we go. We finished the level with 0 energy again. Alright, now we have the most difficult level of all of them, but it's also really interesting at the same time. So this is the level with the RNG that I was speaking of, and you'll see it much later into this level. But let's just go ahead and talk about what's going on in this one. So as you can see, it doesn't look like there's any objectives at all here, but there are. So to gain access to all the floors of this dojo, you have to, once again, turn on lanterns or like wall lamps or something. And you have to turn on 3 on each floor, except the first floor, as you can see, because you can get to the second floor with a bunch of platforming. I like this level a lot because there's a lot of, like, you know, jumps, and some of them are really tight too. So there's the example of the lantern right there. So this second floor is normal, so there's just 3. Also, it's important to note that you do take fall damage in this game. So you want to jump. Like, you could actually control how you jump as well. You can go for a long jump or a high jump, or you can do a tap jump to do a shorter jump. So if you do a long jump where I did a short jump there, you would take damage, I believe. So there's the stairs. So those stairs normally don't appear until you flicker all the 3 lights on. So this is where it gets really interesting. You're going to see a glitch, and I think it's the only glitch we know of so far that's actually really helpful in a speedrun. It's really, really interesting. I really don't understand how it works. But it's great. It was kind of found on accident, as most glitches are, so you'll see it right here. And whoa, where did that light come from? What the heck? What's going on? Weird. Alright, there you go. So, I triggered all 3 lights from the same platform. So normally there are 2 other lights that show up in the other parts of the floor, but for some reason, if you kind of like jump diagonally on each side, you can trigger the lights from a distance, from a different place. Okay, so these platforms, these are known as the Hell platforms, or the RNG platforms. It's vicious because there are many platforms that all have like their own, you know, cycle or like, you know, amount of time they go back and forth. So you can get a cycle where like you're never gonna have a good jump and you're never gonna make it, and like the platforms are gonna go away from each other like this a bunch, and then they're gonna finally meet up, and then you can actually jump. So if you don't get the right cycle, you can't make this. And this is one thing I'd really wish I knew how to manipulate and figure out how the platforms actually work. I think I found something that was mostly consistent, and this is what I ended up with in the PB, and I was really happy with that. But yeah, this place is really, really bad. Like, a lot can go wrong if the platforms don't go the right way. But even if they don't, it's not going to be too bad. Like, if I had to give an estimate for this game, I would give maybe a 30-minute estimate just in case. Like I said, my PB is a 2307, and if like let's just say this went wrong and I fell all the way to the bottom, I'd lose maybe a minute, and I could go for it again. I could take my time, and you know, I wouldn't lose that much time. So I shouldn't be too worried about that. And then like the rest of the game, there really isn't much variability too much. It's just, you know, good execution. And so we're done the level, and we damage boost some more again. Don't jump when you don't need to. And done. So now we're at the final level. This is the I call it the castle or the church, but I think it is the church. It just looks like a really, really fancy church. So the objective of this one, so as you can see, there are platforms that I turn on when I step on them, and there are also other platforms that I avoid. So the ones with the horns, you don't want to step on those, because what's going to happen is it's going to reset all of the normal switches that you've been stepping on. And what you have to do is on each side of this level, there's 2 sides of the church. You have to step on 4 of the good switches and avoid the bad switches. So along the way, there are many platforms you can land on. So once you get 4, all you have to do is just kind of, you know, jump onto the edge of it, and then, you know, just go fast and keep on going. That crow was weird. It just kind of attacked me out of nowhere. I don't think that usually happens. So yeah, there's like green ninjas climbing around and crows trying to attack you. It's pretty scary. So that's it. So now we're done with the first part. And now the second part is basically the same idea, except now the switches look different, which is kind of weird. They look like bats or something. Yeah. So you step on those 4, take the damage there. And there's a really cool thing you could do at the end of this that I actually just barely missed. But you would fall down here, you fall down there, you fall down left a bunch, and what you could actually do is fall all the way to the exit. But there I just barely touched the platform, and you could just go all the way down to here. And voila! Yay! And then they get married and happily ever after, and woo! So there you go. That is Rugrats in Paris Game Boy Color. I'd like to thank GDQ for, you know, for everything they've done so far, and for, you know, letting me speedrun in their past marathon, one of their past marathons, and you know, giving it another chance would be really interesting. I'd love to make a comeback. I think I did really well in 2013. I think I could also do really well in 2017 now that I've, you know, fully come back to speedrunning. Yeah, so very, very interesting run. Very short Game Boy game. I think this has a lot of potential, and hopefully you take it into consideration. Thank you very much, GDQ. It was a lot of fun commentating this. So this is SkateMan222 signing off with my Rugrats in Paris Game Boy Color AGDQ 2017 submission. Thank you for watching.